I'm so happy to announce this session with CEO Bracken Darrell. This is Dweebs Global. For those of you who don't know, this is a Dweebs live event. So we have these every week and we host amazing people from every sector, from best-selling authors to award-winning attorneys to CEOs of amazing companies who have incredible leadership experience. What we do is provide free mentorship and free career advice to anyone who needs it. So if you have any questions about how to start your own business, how to get your resume fixed, you just need someone to talk to about the times we're going through and to help you through some of your mental health struggles, we have tons of mentors here at www.dweebsglobal.org/contact, and we are happy to help you for free. So without further ado, I want to introduce Bracken Darrell, although he is someone who definitely needs no introduction. He is the CEO of Logitech. Bracken, as many of our participants were noting before you joined, a lot of us are using Logitech equipment right now to participate in this call. So Bracken is here to talk about his keys to success. He will talk about winning leadership strategies like goal setting and design thinking. In addition to experience at Logitech, he has over 20 years of experience in business management and brand management across several Fortune 500 companies, including Whirpool, Proctor Gamble, and General Electric. He has incredible executive management experience that has spanned manufacturing, supply chain, product innovation, consumer services, marketing. So he truly has an amazing business experience. He sort of achieved it all. So he's going to come and share his insights with all of you so that you can have a career like his. But we're so happy to have you here, Bracken. Here is what we're going to do. We're going to have a 30-minute conversation with all about the things you want to talk about and share, and then we will open it up to off-the-record questions and answers. So if any of you would like to message me or Jenny, which is just Dweebs Global, you can message Dweebs Global privately or on the chat. We will try to ask your questions afterward. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And actually, you didn't tell the whole story of how we connected on LinkedIn. What happened for your audience is that I made a comment somewhere, and I don't remember exactly where, even what the comment was, somewhere on somebody's post in LinkedIn, and you disagreed with me. Everybody else agreed with me, which happens way too much when you're the CEO of a company. So everybody agreed with me, which is, fine, but doesn't really change too much. And then you disagreed with me, and I really respected that. So I reached out to you. I reached out to send you a note. So I'm glad you disagreed with me, and that's when you and I met there, and you invited me on here. So
yeah. And that is rare as well. A leader who seeks disagreement is rare as well. It's something I try to achieve as well. You don't never want groupthink.
No, you definitely don't want groupthink. Well, I'll just take, I don't know exactly what you'd like me to talk about. I mean, there's so many things I can talk about. Maybe I'll just take a few minutes and just talk about things that are on my mind these days. Is that okay?
That would be wonderful. Let's start there.
Well, tell me a little bit about this audience. Who do you think is out there among these 30-something people?
Awesome. Yes. So we have a lot of people from around the world. So it's very hard to speak on behalf of everyone, but I do know that we have a lot of students who are in business, who are trying to figure out how to succeed in their careers. I know we have a lot of starting entrepreneurs, people who are looking at the situation right now. Maybe they're mid-career professionals, maybe they're starting out, but they aren't sure that they want to work for a company out there. They want to figure out how they can start in the business world. And I know we have a lot of young leaders who have a lot of leadership questions about how they can be better leaders. And actually, I shouldn't have said the word young. I know we have leaders at every age, but they're young at heart.
Okay. Well, why don't I do this then? I'll give you a little snapshot of the career path that I took, and then I'll just talk about a few things, as I said, that are current in mind for me, and then we can open it up for questions. And people can type questions either in the Q&A or in the chat, whatever you're more comfortable with. So first, I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. I was I'm not exactly a Horatio Alger story, which if you don't know who that was, but I wasn't the poorest person in the world, but I had a single mom. She had polio when we were growing up, and she taught first grade. So we didn't have any money. And my most important memories of when I grew up are really around my kitchen table. And we weren't eating, we were doing homework. And the reason why it's such an important memory for me is because that 5-person unit, which was my mom and my 3 siblings, was so good. I learned so much, and there was an argument would break out once in a while, and somebody would make fun of somebody else, and we would laugh a lot. And that was the funnest thing I can remember growing up. And it was also super effective. I mean, I learned more because I heard my older brother trying to figure out with my mom how to do, long division, and my little sister was asking me questions about grammar, and that stuck with me, and it still stays with me today. And so even today, I'm really attracted to small teams. Many of you are either students, or you're going to go work in small teams for a small company, or you're trying to create your own thing. And I just want to encourage you. I think big companies don't have anything over you. In fact, I worked at many big companies, and they're all terrible. They're bureaucratic, they're slow, and I was bureaucratic and slow, and I contributed to that. And I'm still too slow and too bureaucratic. But I'd say small teams have this massive advantage, which is they're not. They're usually skin on skin with customers. They're talking to each other directly, not through somebody else, and whether it's virtually or physically or whatever. But it's such an advantage. Well, after I grew up and I played sports and stuff, and then I suddenly discovered one day that I wasn't one of the best ones playing basketball, and then I tried to get into leadership roles, and I went through my leadership path, and eventually I decided I thought I'd like to run companies, and try to have an impact on the world. And this whole movement around finding your why or your purpose is very second nature to me, because I kind of grew up that way. I used to write down my goals every year, and it always started with what's the purpose of my life, and how will I affect the world through that. And then what are my values? And if you haven't done this, I would encourage you to. What are my values? And I'd write down my values, and I still do. And then I'd say, okay, now what are my goals for the rest of my life? And then how do they break down for next year and next month? And then I'd track them, and I have the most boring kind of systematic, scary method of setting up my goals, and I call it strategic living, because too many people and too many of us, in the world, we live very much day to day without thinking about it. We just kind of move through life. We might have a goal or two, but we really don't. We're not really intentional about what we do. So, excuse me. One day you wake up and you realize, wow, a lot of years have passed, and your life is good. But imagine if one day you woke up and you looked back in your life, and you had a plan, and not just a plan for your career, but a plan for your finances, because your finances give you freedom, and a plan for let's say you wanted to have kids, you have a plan for your kids and how you can help your kids grow, a real plan that you followed through on, and a plan for your health. And that plan for your health was not only to optimize your performance in the moment, but also to enable you to live a longer life. And you had a plan for your second career, because you knew your first career was going to go away. So you wanted a parallel career going on at the same time. And a plan for your hobbies. There's things you love to do, and you want to make sure you don't look back on 10 years and not have gotten anywhere on them. And even a plan for your reading. Well, that's what I have. That's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. And I'm not telling you that I'm better than anybody else, but I can guarantee you that I had a plan. And if you don't have a plan right now for all those parts of your life, there's nothing wrong with that. 99% of the world doesn't. I'll just give you the alternative. If you build a plan for your life, you try to live your life strategically. And strategic living means having a vision for what you want to do with your life, having a sense of purpose for why you're doing it, and then defining your own values that you may not even know yet, but just forcing yourself to define them will help you know better. And then setting goals. Your odds of getting somewhere interesting in your life go up. And I'll give you an analogy. Let's say that Isvari and I are standing next to each other in the parking lot of a Walmart in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Isvari and I are, we're a lot alike, right? Isvari, we're so much alike. We're the same age. We grew up in the same place. We have the same backgrounds. We're really similar. So we're talking, and then we say, you know what, I want to go see the world, And so that's as far as the conversation goes. And then I jump in my car, and Isvari jumps in her cool car, and she's in her car, and while she's in her car, I don't even look over there. I get in my car and I just take off because that's what I want to see the world, right? So I hit the accelerator. I'm going fast. I'm going slow. I'm going around curves. I'm driving. And 3 days later, I finished my experience of seeing the world. And then, fortunately, because we have this amazing thing called GPS and Google Maps and all that stuff, you can trace where I went. And my trip to see the world was through Raleigh, and then I went into another part of North Carolina, and then I veered off into South Carolina just a little bit, but not very long. Then I went into Virginia, and then I went back towards Raleigh because I wasn't using a map. And then I went back around, and then I almost made it out of North Carolina on the other side, but I didn't quite. Then I drove back down, and then I went back into South Carolina. I went all the way down to Charleston, and then I came back, and that was the 3 days. Isvari, on the other hand, she was strategically going to see the world. She pulled out her GPS, and she said, I need a destination. I might never get there, but I need a destination. I've always wanted to go to San Francisco. So I'm going to go to San Francisco. She puts that in her GPS. She looks at the map on the GPS and she sees everything in between. Like, wow, this looks pretty cool. She takes off driving. She drives through Kansas. She drives through the mountains in Colorado. She gets to San Francisco. She actually gets to San Francisco in a day and a half because she had a destination to go to. And then she's like, this is pretty good, but I'd like to see LA too. It's only 7 hours. She drives south to LA. She drives around LA a little bit. And then her 3 days are up. So then we get back together again and we say, well, what did you see in the world? And I say, well, I saw a lot of trees and stuff. And I saw, I saw Charleston. I said, what did you see? And she says, well, I saw the Rocky Mountains. I saw San Francisco. I saw LA. I saw the cornfields of Iowa. You see the difference? The difference is goals. And the truth is, in that story, Isvari didn't know where she wanted to go. She just decided San Francisco sounds good. Many people on this call don't know really what you want to do with your life. And so my encouragement is, Steve Jobs gave the most impressive and most important, I would say, commencement speech in the history of commencement speeches. And if you're about to give a commencement speech, I warn you, do not watch Steve Jobs' commencement speech because it'll demoralize you. Because it's 17 minutes long and it covers everything you really need to know. But if you're not about to give a commencement speech and you haven't watched it yet, please do. In that speech, he tells 3 stories, and they're all important to know. But somewhere in that speech, he says something I disagree with. And he says, if you haven't found your passion in life, don't stop looking, keep looking. And the implication is that there's something wrong with you if you haven't found that passionate thing you're after. Well, there are probably a lot of people on here who know exactly what their deep, dark passion is, what they want to do to change the world. But I'll bet there are those of you on this call who don't. You don't know where your San Francisco is. Okay, my advice to you is just pick a city, pick a destination, pick a goal. If it's something you're kind of interested in, decide that's your destination. You will see more. You will go more places. You will accomplish more simply by having a goal than you will by not having one, even if you're not sure yet. So I'd encourage you to do that. So that's my story number 1, I guess I decided to tell you for today. I guess my story number 2 is I'm going to encourage you to be what many people would tell you, which is be a lifelong learner. If I I could do it right now because I have this amazing stylus that I can use as my Surface Pro desktop, but I won't. If I were to draw a picture of your life between the time you were born and the time when you might pass away, it's not certain yet. We're working on that, but the time when you might pass away. Let's say you're in you've hit age 80 or more. In the first, say, 25 years of your life, I'm going to oversimplify it. You studied 7 subjects in school. You had your first boyfriend or your first girlfriend. He or she broke up with you. You were brokenhearted. You learned to be social if you weren't. You learned to be less social if you were too social. And you got in trouble in class. You were forced to do some sports. So you did like in PE class, you had to square dance and you had to play volleyball and maybe you joined a team, so you're kind of forced to. And they had other things going on in your life. If you add up all those things and you stack them up on a bar, it goes up to here. Okay, it's a big bar. Okay, and that's what happens between the age of 0 and 25. You got a lot of stuff in there to learn. If you go from age 25 to 35, and some of you are there now, 25 to 40, let's say, you don't study 7 subjects anymore in school. Maybe you're studying the equivalent of half of that, or 4 subjects, let's say. And you're not taking square dancing in PE class, but you might have started to run or go to the gym or do yoga or something. You've got 1 or 2 things maybe you do, not as many. Socially, you might fall in love and get married or have kids or all the above, and that's pretty stimulating. So maybe that's as stimulating as when you're young. It's all new. And then you've got other things going on in your life. But if you added up that bar, it's not quite as big as that 0 to 25 bar, right? So the bar is a little lower of new experiences you have. So let's say it's half as big, just for a second. Now you're age 40. Now let's go 40 to say 65. I'm 57. At some point in there, you get really good at what you do for a living. And people come to you for what you do well. And you do it well, so you like to do it. You're proud of yourself. So you do mostly what you do for a living is the same thing all the time. You're an expert in something, or you're pretty good at it. You may have a range around it, but you don't see as much surprise as you did during the early days of your career. So let's say you're doing less. So the bar is there, but it's not quite as big from a career standpoint as that old bar. On the athletics thing, you're down to one thing. You don't have time for anything else. So you kind of found your thing. You're a runner, you're a walker, you're a golfer, whatever it is. You do that thing. It's kind of all you do. So maybe it's still a little bit lower than when you were in your 20s and 30s. And then you've got your family's kind of gotten into stable mode. I mean, the kids grew up at some point. They moved out of the house. You're back to empty nester status. There's no learning there really. You know how to be an empty nester. It kind of comes naturally. And then there's a few other things. But if you put that bar up there, so the first bar is really big, the second bar is lower, third bar is a little lower. Now we're going to go to the last time frame. You're 65. Of course you're going to retire because everybody wants to retire, right? So you retire, and now you don't have to do anything you don't want to. So you do exactly what you want to. You watch TV, you watch the same shows all the time, but you see new Netflix stuff, but you're basically watching TV. You're doing one thing. And if you follow the cliche, you play golf. You socialize with your spouse, or your boyfriend, or your girlfriend, or whoever it is, and you guys are in a groove. And you see the grown kids once every few months, and some grandkids. That's new. Now you put that little bar on there of new things. It's pretty low, I mean, because you're doing only what you want to do. What I'll tell you is a couple things. First, if you're me, that pathway sounds less and less exciting as you get older. I mean, that's not an aspirational grid where you have all these new things, less new things, almost no new things. The second thing is, most of you on this call, sadly enough, have someone in their family who has dementia or who had dementia. And what is dementia? Dementia is the systematic erosion or shutting down of the brain. Well, I have a theory about this, and I believe that shutdown of the brain is often biological, chemical, based on pure physics. But I think we steer our car right into that by doing exactly what I described, by using less and less and less of our brain, and maybe going deeper and deeper on things. And so we drive right into dementia. So my suggestion is this: as you look out at the rest of your life, change the rules, break the rules. There are no rules. You know that first bar? Make that the lowest bar you ever had in your life. Make your first 25 years the minimum. And then you keep learning broader and deeper. Go broad, try new things, stay continuously stimulated. And instead of decelerating, accelerate that every year of your life. And when retirement age comes, ignore it. There's no such thing as retirement for you. Retirement's a terrible idea. I don't know who came up with that idea. It's horrible. And the average mortgage lasts 30 years, which is about the time at which you would retire. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. Stay away from retirement. Retirement doesn't exist for you. In fact, create 3 new things when you hit age 65 or 70, or when other people think they're going to retire. This is the life you should lead. This is your future. And if you don't believe me, go look around. Just start watching humanity in your daily life, and I'll bet you change your view. Okay, that's my second topic. We can take Q&A on that. Somebody asked if we will take questions. Let's see, what else? Yeah, you want to stop here and take questions?
No, not at all. I was just gonna hop in to say that was really profound. I was just really clinging on to that. No, I would love to hear more of your thoughts. Didn't mean to interrupt at all. That was just, I personally, that really spoke to me. The idea of never retire. There's no reason to, and you really that idea of the bars, don't let them shrink. I thought that was extremely profound and relevant to anybody at any stage in their life. It's kind of the idea of you're always learning, you're always young.
Yep, and it's even beyond retirement. It's really, I think people have this mental model, and it makes sense that we use the word retire at the end, because retire literally means take out of commission. I mean, like you retire you take something out of the way. It's like getting it out of the way. So, I think actually the word I like to use is accelerate. So live a life of acceleration, not deceleration. And that's a good idea. So then I guess I'll talk about a couple other things. What else can I talk about? Failure and success. These are 2 things that you've been taught, and you know exactly what they mean, and you know where they fit in your life. And I'm going to change that completely in about 3 minutes or 5 minutes, let's say. Failure and success. Okay, success is obviously good. I mean, everybody wants success, and we all pursue success. And everybody wants to have a successful life, whatever that is. And it doesn't have to look like everybody else's life or somebody else's definition of success, but you have your own definition of success, and you want a successful life. Okay, my first comment is you should, it's great to have some things work because it builds your confidence. And that's wonderful. But I want you to take the word success and remove it from your vocabulary. It does not exist for you. In fact, take it out and put it on your mental workbench. Get out your big old sledgehammer that you're so strong you can lift, and just pulverize success into little pieces, and take it and just push it off the table, and it's gone forever. So you no longer have the word success in your mind. It's gone. And replace it with learning and impact. Because the only thing you want in your life is impact. And the only thing you want from the past is learning. And success is just a description of something that's already happened that somebody said was good. Like a grade in school. You got an A. Well, an A is really helpful to know, kind of. At least tells you, theoretically, it tells you if you learned something. That's the only role it has. So success needs to go away. Why should you take success away? Why should you replace it with learning? Because success is this surprisingly evil little thing. It's something we all pursue, but once we have it, and the longer we have it, the more we like it. And we begin to associate it with us. It's all about our ego. So success pumps you up and leaves you feeling good, but then you can't afford to lose it because it makes you feel bad. So you will try to hang on to success as much as you possibly can. And in fact, you'll try to hang on to success so much that you'll stop taking the same risks that you did to get successful. In fact, you might try to do exactly the same things that worked for you before because they made you successful, even though that's not how you got successful in the first place. And by the way, the world around you changed. It'll limit you because you now define yourself as a successful person. So you don't want to go be unsuccessful in something new. I don't want to lose my face. I don't want to make a fool of myself. People will think I'm not successful. So success for you is gone now. It's history. Let's take another word out. Now that we're taking words out. Failure. Failure is the second worst word in your mind right now. And I encourage you to get rid of that one too. take it out, put it on the workbench, grab the sledgehammer, pulverize it. Failure is gone from your mind for good. Why is failure so bad? Failure is bad because it suggests, again, it's a grade, right? In this case, the grade you got was an F, so you failed. Okay, so what happens in school? You don't like to fail, and you're taught not to fail. The issue is, if you think about it, how did you get to where you were when you entered school for the first time? Somehow you learned to walk, and you didn't walk by doing anything but falling. So you failed and failed, failed and failed, until you finally crawled, and then you stood up and fell and failed and walked. And then when you learned to pick up a glass, you dropped it and you dropped it and you dropped it again, and eventually you learned it. You failed your way to that first moment when you didn't fail. So failing is incredibly natural. And in fact, the most important things in the world only happen because of all the thousands of failures that happened before them. So by learning that it's bad to fail, that you get an F in class for not doing well, you begin to be repelled by failure. You should be encouraged and, in fact, running towards failure. You should be trying to fail as much as you possibly can, because if you don't fail enough, you will not learn enough and you will not grow enough. Now, of course, if you fail in walking on the ledge on a 6-story building, the consequences are not good. So you have to risk manage your mistakes. But that's not the same thing as avoiding failure. So those two words should be gone for good, and you should replace them with learning. And the last analogy I'll give you will be this one. When I was a little kid, that my first grade teacher, mom, she went through a divorce because my dad left when I was 9. And she was a wreck. She was literally a wreck. She had 5 car wrecks in one year, and she was a disaster. She got lost her confidence, and she would second guess everything she did. And she'd come home at night and say, I wonder if I should have said that in that meeting, or I wish I hadn't said that. And she would look to me for advice, And at one point I said to her, Mom, imagine you're standing on the beach. I'd never even been to it. I've never seen the ocean. So imagine you're standing on the beach and you've got this stick in your hand. And you drag that stick right behind your heels. Now you've got this line that's right on your heels. Everything back behind you is just for learning from, not regret, not thinking about, not spending an emotion with. It's just for learning from. And your whole world is right in front of that line. It's where you are today and where you can go in the future. That's your world. So when I think about success and failure, they're back behind that line. That's the only place they can be. Success and failure cannot be in the future, and they can't be in the present. They can only be a grade in your class. They're only in the past. So forget them. Just learn from it. Okay, so I guess I'll stop there unless you want me to keep going, and I'm happy to take questions. Or
Yeah, no, thank you. Also, that's just so you're really like I mean this in the best way, the weirdest business leader I have ever talked to. Like, just how honest you are, and like, if I don't accomplish this, I want to be fired. I've talked to so many people who are like always fighting any bad publicity and bad press, and are not honest about any of this. I do want to emphasize this is brilliant. Thank you so much. Once again, this has been a Dweebs live session. So grateful to have Bracken Darrell, the CEO of Logitech, here. We will have further sessions. Coming up is actually Rami Ismail, who is a famous video gamer and the author of the website Is 2020 Over Yet? So he will be coming to talk about the fact that it is over. So please continue to come to these sessions. If you need free advice, free mentorship, a resume edit, connections to business, just any way that we can help you, we will help you regardless of who you are. Just send a contact request to dweebsglobal.org/contact. It's 100% free. Thank you so much to Bracken Darrell, to all of you for coming. This has been an incredible session. And since this is off the record, my favorite so far. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye.